per hour.
Wind.
Ever trying to tell us something and we don't know how to hear it anymore?
Just a few miles from the location, we're in very, very heavy winds, although the really is not a tornado, but I can see on the ground, this is just a storm, this is a wind event now, probably 80 or 90 miles per hour.
Wind. Wind.
Really getting hit by winds right now, Jake. I'm not kidding you.
You think the wind is ever trying to tell us something and we don't know how to hear it anymore?
Miles from the location, we're in very, very heavy winds, although the really is not a tornado, but I can see on the ground, this is just a storm, this is a wind event now, probably 80 or 90 miles per hour.
Wind.
Just a storm, this is a wind event now.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to Monday. Happy Monday, Jason.
Happy Monday, Neal.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh man, I am full. I'm still full from Thanksgiving.
Do you guys host at your house?
So we didn't host this year.
Okay.
We have in the past. We may host next year, but my wife's mom really likes hosting. Really gets into cooking all of the stuff, and so it's just easier at this point, to just get in the car and go over there.
Yeah. No, host. We've been the delegated hosting family. Now ever since we moved to North Carolina. Like it was funny. Like I haven't talked to my family in 20 years, more than like the occasional "Hey, happy birthday, Merry Christmas," text messages that would happen when I lived in the Midwest. I come home to North Carolina, and instantly our house is the central consolidation point every year for Thanksgiving.
It's probably like family payback.
You think so? You think that's what it is?
So long. I think that's possibly what it is. A little bit. It's the unsaid things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what frustrates me, and I use frustration loosely with that, is that now I'm stuck with all the leftovers in the house. So I am quite literally still eating Thanksgiving food at our house.
Okay. It's really not a bad thing.
I mean, when you're trying to lose weight, when you're trying to like not turn into a fat golfer over the off season, like it can kind of wear on you a little bit.
That's true. I mean, you can tell, in the off season.
Well, Jason,
is that a real thing?
What's that?
Gaining a few pounds in the winter?
Yeah, I mean, like bears hibernate. Like that's pretty natural.
Pretty natural. Yeah.
Pretty natural.
Absolutely.
All right, Jason, let's get into it a little bit. Welcome, chat, to our Monday morning threat brief. Post-holiday, rolling into December. Jason, 30 days until the end of 2025.
This year, I know we say this a lot, and it sort of becomes normal to say this, but like I'm telling you, this year really, really does feel like it has flown by fast.
You could say that every year, and it feels the same every year. It's so fast.
Yeah,
so fast.
I just can't believe it. So, which really means that we have like 2 weeks of real work to get done. And then after that, everybody sort of disappears.
Was it you I was joking with about this? Like, that's a real thing. Like, you've got a week off at Thanksgiving. You've got this week. You've got next week. And then the ghosts really start to come into town. Like, things become... You can't close deals. You can't get through procurement. You can't get your teammates working. Everybody's on vacation. It's gone.
Yeah. It's like the mental mind just really starts to fade after the 15th of December. I'm not sure what happens there, but it seems to be a nationwide, issue.
Except for Noah. So, Noah's going to have to work emergencies for Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? Did you guys make it out of Thanksgiving unscathed?
We did a straw poll, and there was somebody else that pulled the short straw this year. So this way here, Noah doesn't get the the short end of the stick per se, again this year. So,
all right, chat. This is our Monday morning threat brief. Jason and I come to you every single Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to come through and talk about the latest and greatest cybersecurity threats that we're tracking for the previous week and the upcoming week right here. Real quick, Jason, before we get started with today, let's hit our rules really quick.
Absolutely.
Rule is always the same, Chad. It never changes every single solitary time. No racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior in chat whatsoever at all, period, dot, zero tolerance policy. We do have moderators in chat who are here to keep chat free of any racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. They're not here, however, to stifle chat in any way, shape, or form. We do highly encourage chat, as you can see. Moderators will gather comments, questions, anything like that at any point in time, push them up randomly on screen. Jason and I will comment and or action on them. For case in point, Outcast thinks that you have an important meeting today. There we go. We got the hacker community trying to OPSEC its way into your daily routine by the fact that you don't have a t-shirt on today.
I know. Hey, listen, I started getting some comments from people, that were like, hey, you used to be a real button-down guy, and then all of a sudden it was just straight up t-shirts. Like, did you move to California or something?
Oh,
I was like, hang on a second. I still have the button-downs. There's just, for a moment there in life where you're like, I really like t-shirts for a moment.
You really wanted to be a Silicon Valley CEO, didn't you? You wanted to convert BitLift to a Silicon Valley CEO.
Now you're getting into one of my topics. I was thinking we would talk about this.
Oh.
I was thinking we could create, a whole Silicon Valley, series. Like, they really haven't done a great job at this. And then what we could do is we could make the show and then, do all the things that they don't do well, but we do well.
What exactly is it that we do well other than give each other crap? Speaking of giving each other crap, Fix It. Thank you so very much for the raid. Hope your stream went well over in Sweden. Jason, I know we got started a little late, and I know that you got some really hard lines that you got to stay, focused on, and we have a tendency to go over as it is.
I got business meetings.
You got business meetings. You got business meetings. Business meetings, he says. Okay.
That's right.
Well, I'm going to kick it off this week since you kicked it off last week, and I want to talk about because it got a little bit of play, but I don't think it got the play for the right reasons. So did you see that there was a round 2 of this Shai-Hulud attack, or the NPM packages that had come through? So over the last week, yeah, there was a round 2 of about 500 NPM packages. Those are Python and JavaScript based packages that are common libraries and frameworks that are used for developers to code applications, had been ultimately infected with more crypto stealer, data gathering, credential harvesting type of malware in the supply chain. Now, that in of itself, I don't think that that's the worthy part to talk about. This is the part that I actually wanted to share with chat, and I actually wanted to get your take on. This attack was different. This attack was different from a strategy sophistication, because the attacker didn't just build the malware to make it hard to detect. They made it so that it was hard to remove, meaning that if GitLab or GitHub had done what they had done last time, which was to basically revert and remove all of the changes, it would have activated a dead man's switch and would have turned into an eraser virus that would have erased everything that was on the computer that NPM package was installed on. So it made it so that it was incredibly challenging to even remove the malware.
That's kind of genius, don't you think?
Right? We saw the attack, version 1 of the attack, and we saw how quickly GitLab and GitHub responded. The attackers pivoted less than 30 days later. They saw how successful the attack was. They saw how fast it propagated. They saw GitHub and GitLab's response, and they built countermeasures into it in less than 30 days and attacked again.
What I call that is really great prompt engineering, vibe coding, and usage of the AI to build your next ransomware tool, your next malware tool.
That is absolutely scary, right? Because it's hard to know. It's hard to know how they came up with that idea, but I think that it shows not just how fragile supply chain attacks are, but how much more, I don't want to call it advanced, but attackers are getting a little bit more emboldened to be like, well, screw you. If you're going to shut down my malware, I'm absolutely going to lock out your computer.
Yeah. It's almost like the reason why I said ransomware is because to me, in my mind was going to like ransomware, not in the form of payment, but that they just wiped your laptop or your machine and they sort of just ransomed the machine.
Yeah.
Now you can get it back, but you're going to get it back with time. You're going to have to rebuild. You're going to have to rebuild the local machine, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, and so, this gets back to something that I think was one of the first streams that you and I talked about, right? This is one of the things where like your SBOM is pretty useless, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And I think people really need to think about this. I had a discussion a couple weeks ago with a close friend. We did a whole like Miller mindset, interview style on, the rate in which developers use libraries. They inquire on them, they read over them. Hey, this does what I want it to do. It looks like it's pretty well kept up. This person has a good background in keeping up their code and it being clean and tidy. Let's use this, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there is this missing component in the space, which is sort of like a third party that puts a stamp of approval on these libraries and these NPM packages out in the space. And so it's a little bit of a wild, wild west, meaning like there's no third party check really done on it. And so we thought, man, that's a whole nother company, a whole nother startup right there that could happen and sort of help govern those NPM packages, give a third-party check and make sure that they're valid.
Oh, no. Jason, what you're talking about is yet another layer of bureaucracy and security that impedes the development process. Remember, I got SLAs, I got deadlines, I get to get product to market, and all I hear you talk about is like, that's not my responsibility. My responsibility isn't to check to see if a software package is validated, verified, doesn't have backdoors. Like, that's not my role. My role is to get product out. I got to meet with product. I got to meet their product requirements. I've got to meet my engineering deadlines, and I got to get it from dev to test to QA to prod as fast as possible.
So you're telling me you run out the door in the morning. You don't lock the door of your house, your car. You don't take responsibility along the way in life. You just go perform the outcomes, results, and the objectives, and then there's no accountability. No responsibility.
Yes. When I walk away from my Mercedes, it detects that the key is more than 50 yards away and automatically locks the door.
Well, I understand that, but in the software development space, the software that you're creating, you need to be a responsible individual in your development space, and you need.
Are you living in the 90s? Are you living in the 90s? Have you met today's engineers? Have you met today's developers? Chris, where are you at? Chris can't even make it through a README without freaking out.
Listen. It's. If developers don't get on board with this, they're literally enabling the problem. It's going to be egg on their face too. We as security engineers can't keep going and being the babysitter for software developers.
Babysitter?
I'm telling you, man. You got me fired up now, man.
Whatever. This isn't you fired up. You are living in a fantasy world. You are living in a fantasy world. How long have you been in this space, Jason? How long have you been in this space?
I have been in the IT security space since 1996, my friend.
Okay. And how long has the software development lifecycle concept been in place?
10, 12, maybe 15 years, but probably more along the lines of 10 to 12.
Okay, and count on how many fingers can you count where you have seen it work, where security is embedded in the software development lifecycle?
Listen,
there it is, Chad. No. We're now in the debate where you can't give a yes or no answer. It's got to have context to prove the point.
If people don't like, the process has to take place. If you are unwilling to, you're unwilling to follow the process and engage in the process for the process to have its effect, well, then what other things are you skipping along the way?
If software developers have been following the process for the last 10 or 15 years, we wouldn't have 2 NPM attacks in less than 30 days with advanced sophistication.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. If you're a software developer, I'm sorry, but you need to follow standards and practices just like everybody else. Like, we need to get there as a whole community. We can't just be off and saying, hey, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to complete my mission and then and toss it over the fence for somebody else, because that is what has not worked. That has been going on forever. And we see it in all of the communities, Microsoft, AWS a little less, but you see it in all these big companies in the communities where it's somebody else's problem. Well, that person is tired of, it's my problem because you didn't take responsibility. You didn't take the time. You gotta build the stuff right.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying it has not happened. It will not happen. And us yelling on the top of Mount Sinai isn't going to stop developers and make them think, you know what? I should probably audit every single one of the packages that I just randomly import into my application. And again, This carries over into our vibe coders. Like, this is like, I am excited for vibe coding. I make no qualms about it. I think it's going to radically accelerate time to market. But I can unequivocally tell you that there will be people who will code things who don't look at the packages, don't understand what software vulnerabilities are, don't know how to prompt the vibe coding prompts to bake security into them. And I don't think that you will ever get to a point. That's like telling me that you want to educate your grandmother on 2-factor authentication.
I am going to do my best.
Chat the voice of delusion. Chat the voice of delusion.
I'm an ultra optimist. I mean, I love the optimism side of things so much. So, you're going to have a hard time moving me from there.
That's fine. In all fairness, what I would do is I would advise you to go check the list of repos that were hit by that. There are 500 NPM packages. I would run those against your SBOM. I've not seen any reports of anybody getting hit by the dead man switch yet. So either it doesn't work or people have found ways to remove the packages without triggering the dead man switch, and things like that. But obviously, if you're in the software development space, I will say this, Jason. I'm working on some custom MCP servers that I have vibe coded. I've made my prompts available to the community on my GitHub page so they can see how I'm prompting for those MCP servers. What was beneficial was in my vibe coding, I had my robot keep a change log every single time I ask a question at vibe codes. What was pretty awesome was I was able to go back into my IDE and I was able to feed it the link for this Shai Halud, and I was able to tell my bot, go research this vulnerability, go look at all of our change history, go look at all of our code, and determine if we were impacted. And that actually made the process of going through that security check a lot easier.
See, now that's what I think we should be talking about. We should be talking about how people and how software developers can get cybersecurity built in and how they would do it.
Yeah.
Like, this is where the educational moment comes out. Like, hey, give people some ideas on how to do this better.
Yeah.
So that we don't keep doing the same problem over and over and over again where, where can they get that?
They can get that on my GitHub. You can use !socials in chat to get access to my GitHub, in my prompt engineering folder. you've got the prompts that I used, that are in there for that MCP server. And one of the things that I did a small private section with some folks in Discord last week. If you missed it, make sure you're hopping into Discord. I did post in Discord that I was going to be, in sub chat talking about it. And I walked people through my process of going from a product requirements doc to a vibe coded prompt to build an MCP server. And inside of there, I specifically pointed out that in my PRD, I included security requirements in my PRD. And there is a security section that is inside of each of the prompts so that as the IDE goes to code things out, it's coding things out in a secure fashion as well. So absolutely, I completely agree with you. It's something that, I'm looking to do more of that with the community, is to show how you can vibe code and build in. I think, and I think that as we're talking about this software engineering thing, I think that's some of the advantages that security people have over engineers, is that we think about security first. We've got great ideas for how to do software engineering, but arguably we suck at software engineering, but we're really great at security. And so if we could take our security mindset and we could apply it to some vibe coded, principles and practices, we could produce some pretty awesome things, and we could have security built into it. I could almost see a consulting engagement, Jason, where you help software engineering teams with their prompts to build security into their prompts when they go code.
See, I could see that. Maybe we can both do that, and then what would be the real benefit here is that you could leave your other job because they had a data breach. I
think is this where you want to go? Is this where you want to go?
Listen, I think that you need to be concerned about this because when you're driving around in your Mercedes, door dashing, they had a breach, man. So I want to make
or Mercedes.
Sure, DoorDash, when you're vibe coding with your laptop over on the right and you're door dashing in the Mercedes, the largest food delivery platform had a data breach, man. And I think that it's kind of funny because you and I earlier this year, we talked about how data and databases and cybersecurity needs to have a larger effect on operational context here. But the funny thing is DoorDash had this cybersecurity attack, right? All of their systems, not all of their systems, but to me, it's like all of their systems, right? But data exposed was full names, email addresses, phone numbers, physical delivery addresses. Think about that. Every place that you delivered food. Order history, metadata, we'll call that. Full payment card. The things that they said.
Well, full payment card, but it's encrypted, right? Because DoorDash is PCI DSS.
Well, we hope.
No. But they're required to. They're so big. They're going to be a tier one in Mastercard's PCI DSS database. They have to have full PCI DSS compliance.
Yeah. So maybe that's why they're saying publicly that full payment card numbers, CVV codes, and bank details were not compromised. But there was other things that were mentioned here in the report that sort of alludes to that we could have a follow-up report on this. So
why is this any different? Why is this any different? Right? Why do we like we you want to talk about data breaches? Let's talk about OpenAI. OpenAI sent emails out to everybody last week. A third-party vendor, a third party known as Mixpanel, right? Mixpanel vendor was hacked, and as a result, released API request, API usage data, password, API keys, right? All sorts of stuff. Name, email addresses, locations. Third party. So why? Why are we talking about breaches as if it's like something new?
The reason why these two are coming up, and it's important these are the takeaways that I look at from these two instances or examples. One, they both started out with smishing campaigns, right? SMS-based phishing campaigns. Those campaigns ultimately turned into impersonating, a person and getting credentials and then getting access. So both of these situations, and the reason why we're talking about both of these is they're linked with similarities on how they started and gained access to the environment. One, you have DoorDash, and one, you have Mixpanel. Out of these two situations, both have publicly stated that they started with social engineering campaigns, got their employee to give up access through this SMS-based campaign. And I think the thing that we need to take away from this is this is alive and well. These types of campaigns are working across organizations. Really doesn't matter whether you're DoorDash, a large giant company, or smaller than DoorDash, right? The campaign is working, and people are gaining access to the environment. So,
but why is smishing working? Why do people feel the need to click on something that comes into a text message?
It's right there. People think, how did they get my phone number? It's a text message. It says the right things, or it comes with trust built in. I think that this is really part of one of the bigger issues, that we still have a lot of inherent trust in things and people and what's said. And we don't take the time to follow up. So this is, again, where we sort of link the two things. So software developers don't necessarily take the time to do security really well in the software development lifecycle. People aren't doing the follow-up and the checks and the verification before performing a task, when it's sort of, if it hits you in the uneasy spot, like, hey, this doesn't quite feel like it should be. But rather than verifying, check and verify, people are just moving forward because they're fast and they're busy and they got a lot going on. I mean, we hear this all the time. It's unfortunate.
What are you supposed to, like, Jason, you're an MDR. What do you tell clients? Like, what are you saying to if DoorDash or Mixpanel are your customers? What are you saying to them?
So what we tell them is listen, as an MDR, we're going to do the best that we possibly can, but we're not a silver bullet. There is no MDR in the space that is a silver bullet. Whether you pick CrowdStrike or Red Canary or Rapid7, I mean, the problem is that if you give up your credentials and your access to somebody else, we don't know that took place, and then somebody is logging in with your credentials. Now, there are things that you can look for: abnormalities, login location. Last login was from North Carolina. Next login's from Florida, and we know that you can't get from North Carolina to Florida in less than 30 minutes unless you're flying on Neal's plane.
I was gonna say, you haven't seen my wife motivated to get the F out of the cold weather.
Yeah. And so when that takes place, there's a lot of abnormalities you can look for. But still, if these folks are really good and they know where the individual's at, this is like, the whole phishing campaign, people post a lot of information online. And so if I get you to fall for it, the phishing campaign, and I know that you're in, let's say, Boone, North Carolina, then I'm going to pick a place that acts like, and is maybe 10, 15 minutes from Boone, North Carolina. And the login comes from there, right? It's just.
I will always be cynical when people talk about protecting against these types of attacks. And this is why I don't fundamentally I love doing this show with you, and I'll always do this show with you, and I'll always talk about the latest and greatest threats. But one of the things that has blackpilled me around talking about, breaches and things like that have happened in the news is because the breaches are just more smoke to prove that people are sleeping with lit cigarettes beside their bed. If you remember in the 90s and the 2000s when there was a rash of home fires in the 90s and 2000s, that's what the public service messages were all about, was stop sleeping, with lit cigarettes next to your bed because it was causing fires, right? The breaches are just smoke to that.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't fix the core problem. And I think Chris has got a valid hot take here, which is that the business trained users to accept random text on their phone. We've pushed the edge of corporate, work to everybody's edge device and normalized immediate response without checking. Just like we've normalized engineers getting code out the door into production as fast as possible without checking if NPM packages are compromised or not. And I don't think my hot take to you is I don't think the managed detection and response space as an industry has moved to adapt to the speed in which attackers are attacking folks today.
That may be true for everybody else other than BitLift.
Well, I wasn't pointing out BitLift specifically. I was just saying as an industry, it sucks.
It as an industry, I still hear people, solely relying on, just having a SIM, and we've got a SIM.
You mean to tell me that Splunk doesn't keep me protected? Are you telling me that Google SecOps doesn't keep me protected? Whoa!
It's all smoke, man. Though we have to understand where these things, came from, what the roots of them were. SIM started out as a log management tool. You needed logs and you had to have logs, but then we built upon it. But if you're still using what I would call an older technology, and it's sort of not fighting today's modern day warfare of threats, you have the wrong thinking of the thing that's in front of you. It'd be kind of like taking a 1980s car and then saying, "Oh, I thought this car, had the best brakes in the world because it's a car and I still own it." Well, no, it hasn't had ABS put on it, and it may not have the latest, greatest types of brakes on it. A lot of innovation has happened since the 80s. And the same mindset and thinking happens here with SIMs and cybersecurity and, all of the, I'm not knocking SIM, SIM is a core functionality. It's a foundational functionality, but it certainly isn't the end all be all.
I remember when I first started streaming 5 years ago, and somebody asked me then what I thought about the normalization of breach reports. And I said then, and I'll say it now because I do still believe it 5 years later, breach reports have completely been normalized. They fall on deaf ears now, and nobody cares. And because nobody cares, nobody is interested in fixing the root cause. OpenAI it's TPRM, it's third-party risk management. They had a third-party breach.
Yep. Nobody
cares. You remember the first real third-party breach that everybody cared about was 2016 during Target. And here we are.
Yep.
Here we are 9 years later, still fighting third-party breaches.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
I mean, I hope you in your organization do care. And I hope that you are the loudest voice in the room, even if nobody else is listening, because at the end of the day, you've got to lay your head on the pillow and know that you're talking about the right thing and that you are on the right side of this. Now, will I say 100% dig your heels in the sand and don't move? No. You still want to be an active team member that's a player on the team, but it takes time to get people to move in that direction. this also gets into one of the things I wanted to highlight today was Code Red. The emergency alert system was hit by ransomware. The problem is that here again, it's like major critical infrastructure systems are still being attacked. And if you haven't read about this, I mean, it literally just happened November 1st, so not that long ago. It was hit by Inc. ransomware group. They gained access to the Crisis 24's unsolved network, right? And
people think I'm screaming wolf when I talk about critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure is absolute garbage. Critical infrastructure is absolute garbage, and there's no NERC, there's no CMMC, there's nothing that is going to protect critical infrastructure.
That's funny that you mentioned NERC. I used to chat with municipalities and spend my time trying to educate municipalities on the risk and the cyber attacks, and that they should be doing something more than nothing. And they would often say or remind me that they fall below the NERC or FERC requirements. And so they don't need to perform those actions that are written up in those guidelines or those requirements.
That's a fantastic point. I'm going to come back to this question, YouTube. I'm going to add this one to the queue. We'll come back to this question. But I think that's worth diving into, right? So NERC is the Nuclear Energy Regulatory Commission. What's FERC?
Correct. It's the federal side of it. It's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
Okay.
So they post guidelines and they say, hey, if you're above revenue, you're above number of utility, number of people inside of a city or a municipality that you're supplying utilities to, number of meters, right? There's all these sort of like thresholds. And if the city or municipality is below those thresholds, they sit back and think, well, we don't need to do it. We're not.
This is critical infrastructure, Chad. They are FERC certified, but fall below a reporting threshold.
And so what happens is you have tons of these cities and municipalities that either supply water, sewer, natural gas, electricity. You think about all of your utilities and stuff. And those folks, I have at least talked to 27 or 28 of them, for sure. And some of the folks out of the 27 or 28 are doing something. And then some of them are doing nothing because they quote unquote don't have the budget. And I'm like, well, you can do math. I'm thinking to myself, you can do math, right? You can reorganize.
I don't know. It's a government organization. Can they really do math?
Yeah. But you could reorganize the budget to find some dollars to be doing something in cybersecurity that allows you to do detection and response on your utility that is providing critical services. Go to, all of the family members in that neighborhood or that city or that town and ask them, hey, is your water, your sewer, your natural gas, your electric, is it critical to you? Could you do without it? If the people uptown were ransomed and held hostage and could not recover from said incident, what would be your take on that? And they were like, well, we can't raise the rates.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want a rate increase, but
we can't ask the federal government because
they fall below the requirements and they don't want to meet the requirements. So it's always interesting to me that people don't have the right mindset of this. It's like, well, do you have locks on your doors? Do you have cameras on your physical premises? Oh yeah, we lock our doors and we maintain our locks and we have cameras. But you know what? What is the physical intruder to digital intruder comparison here?
But that's an unseen threat. That's an unseen threat. That's so I had an equal frustration, you know, when I was when we were building the offensive security program for the agency, we were building the schoolhouse in the Panhandle of Florida, and we had access through some contacts that we had to the local water treatment facility plant and the local power utility plant that was down there. And and we went on site to tour what a water treatment facility plant was. And we didn't tell them that we were touring it to teach how to hack into water treatment facility plants. We told them that we were, you know, IT security people learning how, you know, water treatment facility plants work. But these are...
So you weren't completely lying to them.
We weren't completely lying to them, but, you know, we couldn't tell them exactly why we were there. But, I mean, these are people... I mean, this water treatment facility plant was run by, like, 4 people, and they are the most blue-collar workers that I give the maximum amount of respect to in the entire world, who they don't give a poop about the one computer that is in their office to manage that water treatment facility plant. All they care about is making sure that that community has clean water. And in their mind, the only way to ensure that that community has clean water is to make sure the chlorine levels are right, the bacteria levels are right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. I'm not arguing that they don't do a great job at their job. But now in 2025, soon to be 2026, their job has to include the knowledge and understanding of how to keep things secure in this modern
Cool. We're going to train every blue-collar worker on cybersecurity, and that's going to introduce a brand new skill set, and that's going to require every company to pay them more based on that skill set. Yeah. Who do you think pays for that increase of cost of services for having higher skilled workers?
The community.
That's right. That community does. That community does.
Yep.
They have to now pay for an unseen risk, an unrealized risk, and an unrealized threat, and a potential threat that may never hit them at all, ever in the 20 years that they live in that community.
Well, then that's good. They did their job. But I would rather pay that person or the individual or the team to do better, to buy products and services that secure the community. Because the problem is one, I wouldn't want to give it to the insurance company if you know.
But that's what insurance is there for, Jason.
No, they're not.
Do you not understand that that's exactly what insurance is there for?
Well, they're there for the oh my gosh, that's an accident.
Well,
but we're not talking about accident. We're talking about negligence.
Jason,
if I make you aware of something and I teach you and I train you on it, and you still ignore the facts in front of you, if you still ignore the facts, that is negligence, my friend.
How does insurance determine an accident?
Who's at fault?
No, it is likelihood and frequency.
So if we're talking about critical infrastructure here, what's the likelihood? They're not doing much today. They're doing bare minimum or nothing.
Sure.
And then what are we seeing? We're seeing a trend that is upticking on critical infrastructure utilities. More and more of these are getting ransomed, and they're getting the phishing and smishing campaigns.
So you have figured out the algorithm that allows an insurance company to determine that what the likelihood is that a water treatment facility plant will be hacked.
Yeah.
Something the insurance company hasn't done in 10 years in cyber. You have that formula in your back pocket ready to sell the patent to all the insurance companies right now today and make $1 trillion.
Yeah, but I'm not here to make the insurance companies $1 trillion. What I'm here to do is help all of these cities and municipalities actually secure their organizations, and hopefully they never have the accident, and they never need to engage their cyber insurance, and then their policies and their premiums go up and up and up, because it doesn't do any good for any of us. Like, we're trying to prevent the whole problem, not wait for it to happen.
As you can see, chat, I give Jason crap intentionally. That's the mark of a good co-host, is that we can go back and forth on a topic like this. This is not an easy conversation to have. This is not an easy conversation to have. Like, securing these organizations isn't as straightforward as just do the right thing, because if it was, everybody'd have BitLift.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
or everybody would be listening to Cyber Insecurity and listening to us talk.
Right. It's this right here. People just don't care if they're part of the problem.
Right. Yeah. And that's sad. I mean, I truly, in my heart, I believe that that's sad. It's like, why don't you care that we have a problem? We need to have some level. I need to move people from 0 to 1.
Yes.
And then hopefully over time we can move them from 1 to 2.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to change everybody at the exact same time and get people from 0 to 10. But we just need to move people in the right direction that says, okay, I do care. I need to learn something about this, and we need to do something. And because today we're doing nothing. Yeah. And there's still a ton of organizations that are doing nothing.
Which is why it will continue to remain the smoke you see in the distance, and you'll just look at it and you'll be like, that's another company that just didn't secure their third-party vendors, didn't limit access to, sensitive data via the API, that, fell below the risk line and therefore ignored a cybersecurity control, and we'll continue to see ransomware all day long.
I mean, it is probably the biggest topic that we talk about inside of BitLift, because of who we are, what access we have, APIs and that type of thing. And you want to have a balance between building, innovating, and pushing code to prod and cybersecurity. Like, I certainly do not want to be on this show in the future and saying we had blah, 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 happen to us.
Yeah.
Now would I, after we figured everything out and if something took place against us, I would absolutely transparently share it, because I would want the community to learn from it and to grow from it, because we're not all immune to this problem.
Here's what I'll tell you I start to feel like, Jason, just in transparency. With the rate in which we discuss data breaches and ransomware attacks, do you remember watching Dan Rather or any of the other old school newscasters who were like, and in today's news, seasonal flu averages are up, make sure you go get your flu shot, and then that's it. Right. That's the conversation.
Yeah, it was garbage.
That's what talking about breaches to me is today.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I don't want to be there either, because for the most part, we're telling people you should go do this, and then people don't do it. Yeah. That is part of the problem. Yeah. Next week we're changing the format of the show.
What are we doing next week? Are we going to wait free flu shots next week?
Yeah. Go to your local Kroger or Meijer. I heard Sam's Club. You walk into the door to the left, free jab.
Chat. We're not trying to be intentionally negative. We're realists. Yeah. This is the conversation of realists right here. Speaking of realists, great question from YouTube. We're back to the third-party breach thing, right? Is there any way to protect against third-party breaches? And if you tell me that SOC 2 cures everything, you are fired from this show.
No. So you said it a little bit earlier, and I want to bring it back up. you need to have awareness around your APIs, your configuration, and access controls to your third parties, and limiting and making sure that the API does not have complete access to your environment or too much access. You want to make sure that the API or the integration from that third party or to the third party, based on it, is if it's bidirectional or one way, what level of access they have. And you should be reviewing this on a regular basis. That's highly recommended. You don't want to give that API full access to your environment or vice versa.
I think one of the things that we get caught up in is that we know that we have to monitor endpoints. We know we have to have EDR on an endpoint. We know that we have to
APIs
monitor.
Are no different.
Right. But I would even take it a step further than that, Jason. Third parties are no different. You have to monitor third parties the same way that you would monitor your employees. What are their access controls? What's their least privileged? What parts of the network are they connecting to? You have to treat each third party just like they're an employee, and you have to have the same level of user access controls on the third party that you would have for every single employee.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing is we have to ask ourselves, and this moves us from this mindset of the way we used to do it to the way we're doing it now. And you need to be able to ask yourself, are the way that we do it, I'm not saying that correctly.
Words are hard. Words are hard, Jason.
Words are hard. The way that we are doing it today, is it the proper way? Should we rethink it? Should we burn it down and start all over? We have this conversation internally all the time. Like, hey, we did something a year ago or 2 years ago based on the best knowledge that we had at the moment. And we built something. But today we have more knowledge and more understanding, a better understanding of what we're trying to go do. Burn it down, rebuild it.
Yeah.
And then, oh, by the way, along the way, ask ourselves the tough questions. Did this really need all this access?
Yeah.
Heck no.
Yeah.
We did that in the moment just to get it working. But once we got it working, this is like when you fill the lawnmower with gas, and you're like, well, let's fire it up for the first time in the spring and make sure it runs. Well, before we do that, you probably should put the gas can further away and close the lid. You know what I mean?
I think one of the things that third-party risk started out being a manageable problem because, quite frankly, there were just so few critical vendors that had access to networks. I think as we've become a more digitally integrated workforce, did you like that buzzword there? That was a pretty good one.
Well, that's a good one.
Right?
I hope they post that. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. As we've become more digitally integrated workforce, almost everybody now is a third party in some way, shape, or form, right? I mean, I could say, like, as Query, like we are all third party. Like, we're a SaaS application, a remote first company, and so I mean, we got HubSpot, we've got Zoom, we've got Slack, right? We got Google Workspaces. Right. Like everything is a third party that it is that we do, and you have to treat those third parties like employees.
Yes. 100%. I don't disagree with you there at all. I think that is a good mindset to have, and it's a healthy one because it causes you to exercise the components. How are we treating that person, that individual?
Are you doing access reviews every single time? Whenever there's a contract renewal, are you making sure that the integrations, the plugins, the OAuth accesses, everything that you've allowed that user to have access to, are you still making sure that all that's valid?
Yeah. It's a good way to do it. I mean, it's going to set us up. If we could all get into sort of this mindset and start chiseling away at it, it's going to set us up for in 3 months and 6 months and 12 months, we will be better. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the third party thing, like while I poo-poo on GRC and TPRM as a concept, I don't dismiss the risk that third party has, and I don't dismiss the risk that there is an increasing amount of third parties. And I think it was on a stream that you and I did, where I talked about, I think the future of the workforce is probably moving more towards a gig work or a contract work or an a staff augmentation type of role where you could contract with me to do a project for 6 months and then you're done with me, right? And that's okay. Like, it's no longer a full-time employee type of basis. And that's a third party. And so how would you treat that third party? Do you give me access to your entire code base? Do you give me access to all your documents? Do you give me access to everything? And then ultimately, like, how do you treat that? I think that we've got to get into this. Everybody is a user, whether you're a third party or not. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to control and monitor that.
Yeah. A lot of the ways that we used to think about, on-prem versus cloud, we sort of took our on-prem methodologies and applied them to cloud. That was a bad idea. But we did it. We migrated. Right now, we should be asking ourselves, hey, we're a cloud first. We're a remote worker first. And absolutely, I mean, we have to also not be surprised when, software packages and the NPM packages and all the rest of it have the problems that we do because people are moving too fast and they don't have the organizational structure that needs to be put in place. And it doesn't need to be this, policy. It just needs to be something that where we can start causing ourselves some healthy friction in creating secure software.
One of the things that I had on my list that I think this is a tie into, and I realize we're coming up on time, and so we'll keep this one short and we'll push through. Jason and I have frequently talked on stream. Jason has come on here and talked about Kerberos. He's come in here and talked about NTL MV2. He's come in here and talked about LLMNR. All these older protocols that are still alive and well on Microsoft Azure AD type of environments. I found an article in prepping for today's stream. I'm a huge fan of Secure List. I'll put this one inside a Twitch chat for everybody to see. And I thought that this was really appropriate. And again, this is relevant. They just released this article the 26th, so 5 days ago. And the title of the article is Old Tech, New Vulnerabilities, NTLM Abuse, Ongoing Exploitation in 2025. And it continues to talk about NTLM, the current exploitation of NTLM vulnerabilities. And these are CVEs that have 2024, 2025 in their CVE titles. And it just continues to show that there's a lot of people, and I've seen this throughout my entire career, Jason. I've been a SANS instructor. I've built content for the Air Force. I've taught offensive security for the agency. I was chief content officer at INE, and people poo-poo all the time because these courses teach old tactics, techniques, and procedures. When in reality, we are still getting owned every day of every week by old tech.
Old tech. I think people that say that, I'll skip that thought. The reality here is that when we talk about this with customers, prospects, when we do some like engagements and then really get into deploying our full MDR, the thing that we instruct these people is like we need to shore up some of these loose ends that are still in the environment. And oftentimes they don't realize that these old technologies still exist and aren't sort of auto upgraded or turned off, that they're still on by default, and that they have the vulnerabilities that they do. I think
NTLM is a core protocol and it hasn't been updated in 30 years.
Yeah. So, I think we have a lot to learn from those old tactics and techniques because they are still being used today. And like, if you found a really good method and it's still being widely used and it was from a year or two ago and you're a criminal hacker, well, why would you go and try and create something that's way advanced when you can create something that was from a couple of years ago and it still works today?
despite this year's kind of influx of 0 days, one of the things that that I will always take away from my experience at the agency, at the time, we only had about 12 0 days, and this was like the 2010, 2011, time period when I was there doing that type of work. We only had about a dozen or so 0 days, and we held on to those things like gold, because as soon as they were out in the public, everybody knew about them. And so we relied heavily on the old stuff because the old stuff was still so prevalent and was still so successful. And why would you burn a 0 day when you could use old stuff all day long?
All day long.
All day long.
Yeah. It's just like the SMP protocols and not moving up to the latest, greatest. And I mean, when you still have the old protocols in use for SMP, we still find environments with, port 80 and port 53 and port 21 open to the public. And we're like, well, why are these ports open? Well, we use them from time to time for such and such.
Yep.
Well, there's no authentication on them. They're insecure. And, and not only that, but your firewall could have a problem because you haven't updated it and it's 3 versions behind. And, we need to fix this. Like, we need to close these ports and we need to update your firewall. And, oh, by the way, you have potentially SMB that could communicate across the internet. Like, why are we doing this?
Chat, don't knock. If you're listen, this isn't an advocate for any training program at all. But if your instinct is to bash a training program because they're teaching you how to run an exploit from 2008 or 2010 or 2015 or 2016 or 2017, if you're bashing them because they're teaching you how to crack NTLM, hashes, right, then you are sorely misunderstanding about the actual implementation of those protocols and those technologies in today's modern stack. It is everywhere. It is everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, like, you even see Linux is starting to become a target. And in preparation for just my own knowledge and understanding, Linux is becoming very much in the bullseye of criminal hackers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things is old kernels that don't get updated and patched.
Yep.
So even though Linux is pretty lightweight, historically, Linux has not been a number one target for issues, for cyber attacks. But now all of a sudden, since it is so widely adopted in AWS and other cloud technologies, but if there are EC2 instances in Linux servers that are up and spinning and they never get their patch done correctly, then the problem is sorry,
that's
somebody
okay.
was trying to call
That's
me.
okay. I wasn't sure if that was you or if it was me.
Yeah. And so, the problem is, we need to pay attention to our Linux distros as well.
Yeah.
Like, kernel level breaches and attacks are trending up.
Yeah.
And it's something I think that we should start to talk about. And I've even thought about give you a little bit of an insight into our future stream is we talk about how AWS and code infrastructure, right, and a serverless infrastructure and infrastructure as code. This is we have to secure this, and we have to start thinking about methods and recommendations for securing this, because eventually it's going to be a lot less infrastructure, and it's all going to be a codeless or a code infrastructure,
a serverless
and
infrastructure as code.
Serverless.
Yeah.
And this is going to present a whole new methodology on how do we protect this and how do we secure this.
Every day something's changing, Jason. Every day something is changing.
That's why we work and live in this space.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. It's amazing. It's a ton of fun.
But you know what? Before you close this out, you know what I did hear?
Yeah. What'd you hear?
AI will fix it.
I will fix it. Yeah, I gotta go. My 10:30 is actually a vibe coding session.
Jason, before you send us off, let me remind chat, today, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be back here with my good friend Bobby Ford. We're going to be talking about some phishing topics. We talked a little bit about that with Jason here today, around some phishing stuff, but obviously we're going to be chatting with Bobby at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with that. If we're going to everybody hang out here on Twitch, we're going to go, if you're not already over in BeardSec's stream, we'll raid BeardSec's co-working stream here in a little bit. I'm not going to co-work today, Jason, because you know how it is when you show up in the green room, when it's your first couple streams and you don't know that you're just supposed to sit there and wait. So we're kind of giving Bobby an opportunity to get kind of used to like showing up in the green room. He knows his mic works, his camera works. So, as part of like that. So we're going to skip the co-working and help him kind of nudge into that a little bit.
All the things I'm still trying to figure out myself.
Whatever, dude. You're a pro now. You've been going at it for a year. Apparently everybody loves your shirt, Jason.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Send us home.
I'll send you guys home with this. Funny comment over Thanksgiving. People were talking about, are you going to update to the latest iPhone? Blah blah blah. It's got the possibility of multiple SIMs. I was like, great, more ways for the attackers to try and attack. So just having one SIM is not, problematic enough. I need two or more.
Are you telling me that you were having a conversation at Thanksgiving where people were excited to have more than one phone number in an eSIM format?
We did. We had the whole conversation because people, people are still walking around with two phones, right? A business phone and a personal phone. I've talked to 5 people in the last week that have 2 phones, 2 physical devices. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they fixed this problem. But anyhow.
There you go, chat.
Hey,
chat.
Thanks for hanging out with us this week. Next week, we're going to have some more awesome content for you guys. Love chatting and hanging out. And you guys are a huge part of it. We said this last week. You guys probably listen to us a little bit, maybe like 1/3 of the time, but you guys are having some great conversations in chat, and that's really important to us. And the biggest thing that we're driving here after is enabling the community to learn, and we're all learning together. I am certainly not a know-it-all, and I love to hear from you guys and thoughts and ideas, and so I appreciate you guys hopping in and spending the time with us on a Monday morning. So you guys are what get me out of bed and keep me excited is you guys showing up. Otherwise, it would just be Neal and I talking to each other.
And with that, let's get some W's for Jason. Jason, I appreciate you as always. We're going to start the raid. Head on over to BeardSec stream. If you get the pop-up right now, asking you to participate in the raid, ask that you go ahead and participate in that raid. It helps me out. It helps BeardSec out. Go give him a follow. Go cheer him on for working. With that being said, I'll see y'all at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Gone Fishing.
See you guys.